In today's Real Estate Nuggets, I'm done with Canada. The high cost of living leads some to leave the country. How move-up buyers are impacting housing demand, and they're drowning. Latest interest rate hike hits BC and Canadian homeowners hard. So first from CTV News, I'm done with Canada. The high cost of living leads some to leave the country. With the Bank of Canada's recent decision to raise its key interest rate and the average price of a home rising year over year, many Canadians say they are struggling to afford housing. As a result, some have decided to relocate to countries where they will pay less for accommodation and other essential items. Roland Cameron from Hamilton and his wife arrived in Barbados on July 10th and plan to live there permanently. In search of a lower cost of living, the couple hopes to make a value of their dollar go further, Cameron said. High housing costs played a role in Cameron and his wife's decision to leave Canada, he said. For his 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in Ontario, Cameron's monthly mortgage payment was about $5,500, he said. But in Barbados, Cameron is renting a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home for slightly more than $3,000 per month. The house is 2,300 square feet and includes a pool. Like many Canadians who reach out, Cameron said he hopes the move will have a positive impact on his overall quality of life, allowing him to generate more disposable income to spend on recreational activities and eventually growing his family. Cameron said he and his wife held off having children while living in Canada, but plan to revisit the idea now that they're living in Barbados. So they're going to move out of Canada for cheaper living so they can afford to have children. We see that we have better opportunities for us somewhere else compared to what Canada seems to be able to provide for us moving forward, he said. It's the difference between surviving and living. Steve Thoreau, originally from Ottawa, also decided to leave Canada in March of 2020 because of the high cost of living. Quote, I was in Banff and a little restaurant by the lake wanted $17 for a hot dog, Thoreau told ctvnews.ca in a telephone interview on July 4th. I just don't understand how people survive here. Thoreau and his wife plan to move to Cambodia, where the cost of living is far more affordable compared to Canada, he said. Starting in August, Thoreau and his wife will live in a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home with a pool while paying $300 a month in rent. Meanwhile, in Canada, the average price to rent a 1-bedroom unit is $1,837 based on the latest report from rentals.ca. Next up, from Mortgage Professional magazine, how move-up buyers are impacting housing demand. The trend was impelled by Bank of Canada's temporary pause in rate hikes during the second quarter. Buyers took advantage of the Bank of Canada's temporary pause in overnight rate hikes in the second quarter of the year, sparking a flurry of activity in the mid to upper price ranges, RE/MAX Canada said. Tight inventory levels placed upward pressure on values, prompting double-digit price increases in 5 of the markets analyzed. Christopher Alexander, president of RE/MAX Canada, said that the marked increase in overall value of Canadian real estate compelled a significant number of households to move up to larger homes or more desirable communities. The Bank of Canada's Q2 interest rate freeze paved the way for the re-emergence of inventory challenges in most urban markets, according to Alexander. Quote, quality listings were quickly snapped up, many moving in multiple offer situations, which served to draw more sellers into the market in April, Alexander said. By May, the market was moving full speed ahead until the Bank of Canada announced its decision to raise the overnight rate in June and again in July, taking the wind out of the proverbial sails of most markets, with some exceptions, namely Calgary, Regina, and Montreal. However, the Bank of Canada's policy rate of 5%, combined with perennial issues in the pace of housing construction, will prove to be a drag on purchase activity this summer. Quote, one simply cannot understate the serious repercussions the housing shortage will continue to have on Canadian real estate and affordability, Alexander said. In the short term, while the Bank of Canada's movements may clamp down on housing demand, especially at lower price points, we expect they will have the unintended consequences of serving as a temporary dam, causing pent-up demand to build and new home construction to contract. Possibly the most insightful thing I've read on the internet. Whenever you read these articles, quite often I read them and go, you just don't get it. But this one, let me read that again. In the short term, while the Bank of Canada's movements may clamp down on housing demand, especially at lower price points, we expect they will have unintended consequences, serving as a temporary dam causing pent-up demand to build and new home construction to contract. And that's one thing we can't have. We have such a housing shortage right now, it's crazy. And lastly, from the Vancouver Sun, they're drowning. Latest interest rate hike hits BC and Canadian homeowners hard. Canada's central bank recently hiked its key interest rate to the highest it's been since 2001, playing what some call a dangerous game affecting homeowners, landlords, and renters. This is Biscuit. She's my puppy. She's 7 months old, and she just got fixed today, and she's very sad. He's a sad puppy. The latest interest rate hike has pushed more Canadians to the edge, forcing them to consolidate debt and consider consumer proposals to stave off bankruptcy, said insolvency trustee Chris Sinclair. It's pretty heartbreaking, said Sinclair, who's based in the North Shore and works for Smythe Insolvency. Sinclair says he's never seen such a scary financial picture for homeowners in his 14 years in the business. The central bank hiked its key interest rate by a quarter percentage point last week, bringing it to 5%, the highest it's been since 2001. In case you're wondering about Bank Prime is higher than Bank of Canada. For the 10th consecutive rate hike since March of 2022. Victoria-based mortgage broker Elizabeth Prinz said clients who are on variable rate mortgages are struggling. They're drowning, she said. I've been talking to clients who have had to use credit cards to buy groceries. For example, someone with a $700,000 mortgage and a 3% interest rate would have been paying $3,300 a month. Their monthly payments would now go up to $4,600 with a 6.3% interest rate. Matt Eady, a Victoria-based realtor with Newport Realty, has 5 properties with a combined 17 rental suites. 4 of his mortgages are on variable interest rates, which means his mortgage payments have increased by at least $4,000 a month. The more expensive borrowing costs don't only hurt homeowners, he said, but will trickle down to tenants by way of a more expensive rent. Quote, what needs to be highlighted here are these rate increases aren't just impacting landlords and homeowners, Edie said. Eventually, that also hammers the tenants as well. BC Premier David Eby said the latest interest rate hike is devastating news for families, and he doesn't believe in solutions that come at the expense of the poorest people. Quote, you really do have to wonder when the Bank of Canada is... She's so sad. Is she going to sleep? You going to sleep? No, you're just sad? Okay. All right, I'm going to call it there. Poor Biscuit. Real estate nuggets.